handed to a Lakota warrior in shame. She heard him say, "You belong right here." Maya had always tried her best to fit in, to follow the rules, and to be the kind of person her family and community could be proud of. But life has a way of testing people in ways they never expect. On that particular day, everything seemed to go wrong. She had woken up with a heaviness in her chest, a sense that something important was about to happen, though she didn't know what it would be. She went through her morning routine as usual, brushing her hair, washing her face, and trying to shake off the feeling that clung to her like a shadow. She told herself it was nothing, just one of those days. Maya's home village was small, a place where everyone knew everyone else's stories. It was a tight-knit community, proud of its traditions and careful about how people behaved. There were expectations, unspoken rules that guided daily life. Straying from them, even slightly, could bring judgment or worse, shame. And that day, Maya found herself in a situation she could not undo. It started with a small mistake, something that seemed insignificant at first. She had been running an errand for her family, carrying a basket of goods through the narrow paths that wound between houses. Her mind wandered as she walked, thinking about the chores she still had to finish and the conversation she had overheard the night before. She did not see the loose plank on the bridge ahead. One moment she was walking and the next she had tripped. The basket tipped over, spilling its contents into the shallow water below. Maya froze, her heart pounding. She looked around, hoping no one had seen, but of course everyone had. A group of villagers had gathered, murmuring amongst themselves, their faces a mixture of concern and disappointment. She felt her cheeks burn. Her hands shook as she tried to retrieve the spilled items, but the water had already carried most of them away. She wanted to disappear, to sink into the ground and leave no trace of her failure. The elders approached, their expressions stern. In their eyes, this was more than a simple accident. It was a reflection of carelessness, of irresponsibility. Maya's mind raced, trying to explain, to plead her case, but the words stuck in her throat. She felt small and exposed, every mistake magnified in the eyes of those she respected most. She had never felt so vulnerable. Then came the moment that would change everything. One of the elders, a woman known for her strict sense of justice, spoke. She said that Maya must learn the meaning of responsibility and honor, and that there was only one way for her to do so. The words hit Maya like a heavy weight. She did not understand completely at first, but as the elder continued, the truth became clear. She was being handed over to someone outside her family and village, someone who could guide her in a way her own people could not. She had heard stories of this man, a Lakota warrior known for his wisdom and strength, a man who lived by his own code and demanded respect. The thought of meeting him filled her with fear. Maya felt a swirl of emotions, fear, shame, and a deep sadness. She wanted to cry out, to refuse, to run back home and hide, but she knew there was no turning back. She had no choice but to go. Every step she took toward the place she was being sent felt heavier than the last. Her mind replayed every mistake she had ever made, every harsh word she had ever been spoken to, and every glance of disappointment she had ever received. It was as if the past had gathered all at once and wrapped itself around her heart. As she walked, Maya noticed the world around her with a clarity she had not felt before. The wind moved through the trees, the sun shimmered on the river, and the birds called to each other in a language she wished she could understand. But even in the beauty of the world, she could not escape her own feelings of guilt and shame. She wondered what the warrior would think of her. Would he see her as weak, as a failure, as someone unworthy of respect? Or would he look beyond her mistakes, seeing something deeper she could not yet see in herself? When she finally arrived at the camp, she was met not with a shout or a scolding, but with a quiet presence that seemed to fill the space without demanding anything. The Lakota warrior stood tall, his eyes calm and steady. He did not rush forward to judge or question. Instead, he watched her with a quiet curiosity, as if he were trying to understand who she really was, beyond the mistakes and the shame. Maya felt a small flicker of hope, even as her heart still quivered with fear. She realized that perhaps this was not the end of her story, but the beginning of something new. She did not yet know what it would be, or how she would find her place here, but for the first time in a long while, she felt the faintest possibility that she could belong somewhere, even if she did not yet understand where that place was. Every movement in the camp was foreign to her. The way the fires were tended, the careful preparation of meals, the quiet communication between people who had lived together for a long time. Maya felt like an outsider in every sense, but she also felt a strange pull, as if something deep inside her recognized that this was where she was meant to be, even if her mind could not yet accept it. She had been handed over in shame, but something about the calm strength of the warrior suggested that perhaps shame was only the first step toward understanding herself. As night fell and the stars emerged in the vast sky above, Maya lay down near the fire, listening to the crackle of the flames and the distant calls of animals in the forest. She thought of home, of family, of friends, but she also thought of the journey that had brought her here, and the journey that would continue from this moment onward. Fear still lingered, but so did a small spark of courage, a quiet voice inside her whispering that perhaps she could rise above her mistakes, and perhaps she could find her place, even here, in the presence of the Lakota warrior who watched over her with quiet patience. That night Maya slept fitfully, her dreams a mix of past regrets and uncertain hopes. But within her, a seed was planted, a tiny, fragile belief that she might not be defined by her shame, and that someone somehow would see her for who she really was, beyond her faults and fears. And in that darkness, that flicker of hope was enough to carry her into the unknown days ahead. Maya awoke to the soft light of dawn filtering through the tall grasses surrounding the camp. The cold morning air bit at her skin, but it also carried a strange sense of calm. For the first time since leaving her village, she felt the quiet hum of life around her, not the anxious chatter of people judging her, but the gentle rhythm of the camp as it prepared for a new day. She rose slowly, unsure of what was expected of her mind still heavy with the shame she had carried from her past. As she stepped out of the small shelter where she had been given a place to rest, she saw the warrior, Tasunk. He moved with a quiet purpose, tending to the fire with careful, practiced motions. Every gesture was deliberate and controlled, yet natural. He did not turn immediately to look at her, but when their eyes finally met, Maya felt something shift inside her. There was no anger there, no judgment, just a calm curiosity that made her heart both ache and hope at the same time. Tasunk spoke first, his voice low but clear, carrying across the morning air. "Walk with me," he said simply. There was no command in his tone, only an invitation. Maya hesitated. Every instinct in her body screamed that she did not belong here, that she had no right to walk beside this man of strength and honor. But something in the softness of his eyes told her that she could, if only she tried. They walked together in silence at first. The path led them along the river that bordered the camp, the water glistening as it moved over smooth stones. Maya's hands fidgeted at her sides, and she felt a weight pressing on her chest, the old, familiar shame that had followed her for weeks. She wanted to apologize for everything, for her mistakes, for her presence, for being exactly who she was. But Tasunk did not ask for explanations, and slowly she realized that he did not expect perfection. Instead, he began to show her the rhythms of the camp. He pointed to how the elders prepared their meals, explaining the care that went into every choice of ingredient, the importance of patience and respect for what the land provided. Maya watched, fascinated as people moved seamlessly through their tasks, each action connected to the next. She had never seen such harmony before. In her village, life was often chaotic and mistakes were punished harshly. Here, there was order, but it was gentle, not cruel. Tasunk then handed her a small task. It seemed simple at first, tending to a small fire, but it required focus, attention, and care. Maya fumbled at first, dropping a log and almost letting the fire die. She felt the old shame return in a wave, hot and heavy, threatening to crush her. But instead of scolding her, Tasunk knelt beside her and showed her how to hold the wood, how to feel the energy of the flames, how to listen to the subtle sounds the fire made as it burned. "It is not failure," he said softly. "It is learning, and learning is how we grow." Maya stared at him, stunned. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. In her past, mistakes were met with punishment, with harsh words, with looks of disappointment that seemed to pierce straight through her heart. But here, in this quiet camp, she began to feel the possibility of something different: acceptance. Maybe, she thought, she could belong somewhere without having to be perfect. Days passed, and Maya's small tasks became larger ones. She helped gather food, prepare simple meals, and care for the animals that roamed near the camp. Each task taught her patience and respect. Each mistake reminded her that learning was not a straight path, but a journey filled with small steps and careful attention. And with each small success, she began to feel a tiny spark of confidence growing inside her, almost imperceptible but real. Tasunk's presence was a constant guide, though he rarely spoke more than necessary. He moved among the people of the camp with quiet authority, observing, instructing when needed, and allowing Maya the space to grow. He watched her stumble, helped her rise, and allowed her the dignity of finding her own strength. There was a rhythm to their days together, a balance of work, reflection, and quiet observation that Maya had never experienced before. One morning, as they walked along the river to check the traps set for small game, Maya noticed something that made her pause. A small bird had become tangled in a net. Without thinking, she reached down and carefully freed it, her hands trembling. Tasunk watched, a small smile appearing on his face. "You see," he said, "compassion is strength, not weakness. To care is to honor life itself." The words sank deep into Maya's heart. She had spent so long hiding from her mistakes, from her shame, from the judgment of others. But here she realized that her sensitivity, her empathy, her care for the world around her were not weaknesses. They were part of what made her whole. For the first time, she felt that she could be more than her mistakes. She could be herself, and that could be enough. As the weeks turned into a month, Maya began to feel a sense of belonging she had never known. She still made mistakes, and sometimes her hands trembled with fear or uncertainty, but the fear no longer controlled her. The camp accepted her efforts, celebrated small successes, and guided her gently through errors. The shame that had once weighed so heavily on her chest had begun to lift, replaced by a quiet confidence. Tasunk never forced lessons on her, but each day brought understanding. He showed her how to read the sky, predict the weather, and notice the subtle signs of the land. He taught her the stories of his people, the importance of honor, courage, and humility. Slowly, Maya began to see the connection between her actions and the world around her, between her mistakes and the lessons they carried. She realized that life was not about never falling. It was about learning to rise again, with understanding, grace, and patience. One evening, after a long day of work, Maya sat by the fire, exhausted but content. Tasunk joined her, sitting silently beside her as the flames danced. The firelight reflected in his eyes, and for a moment Maya felt a deep sense of peace. She realized that she was no longer walking in fear. She was learning, growing, and finding her place, one careful step at a time. "You are learning quickly," Tasunk said, his voice calm but carrying weight. "But remember, it is not speed that matters, but understanding. Life is not a race, Maya. It is a journey, and every journey begins with a single step." Maya nodded, feeling a quiet warmth in her chest. For the first time, she did not feel like a failure. She felt like someone who was beginning to understand herself, who was beginning to see her own worth. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time she felt ready to walk it. As night fell and the stars appeared above, Maya felt a sense of wonder she had never known. The camp, the land, the people, all of it was new, strange, and beautiful. And within her, a quiet strength was growing, a sense that perhaps this place, and this man who had guided her so gently, could help her find the belonging she had always longed for. She knew there would be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and fear, but she also knew that she was not alone. Tasunk's presence, the rhythm of the camp, and the lessons she was learning every day were all guiding her toward something greater. And for the first time since her fall, Maya believed that she could rise from her shame, that she could find her place in the world, and that she could belong somewhere, truly and completely. Maya had been in the camp for several weeks now, and every day brought new lessons in. Small victories. The early fear that had gripped her heart was slowly fading, replaced by curiosity and a quiet determination to grow. She had learned to carry water, tend the fire, prepare food, and care for the animals. But these were only the surface lessons. The deeper lessons were harder to see, hidden in the quiet moments and the patient guidance of Tasunk. One morning, as the sun rose over the hills, Tasunk called her to walk with him to the edge of the forest. Maya followed, her steps careful, as she had learned to pay attention to everything around her. The wind whispered through the trees, and the soft crunch of leaves underfoot seemed to echo in her ears. Tasunk stopped beside a large oak tree, its roots twisting into the earth like fingers. He gestured to the tree and said, "Every living thing has a path. Some paths are easy, some are hard, but every path is important." Maya looked at the tree, then back at him, unsure what he meant. Tasunk knelt and traced the roots with his fingers. "You see how these roots grow around obstacles. They bend, they twist, they find their way. That is how life works. Obstacles are not walls, they are lessons. You must learn to move with them, not against them." Maya felt a spark of understanding. She had spent so long seeing her mistakes as walls that blocked her, as signs of failure. But maybe they were more like roots, things to grow around, learn from, and let guide her forward. She took a deep breath and nodded, feeling a small shift inside her. The next days were filled with practice. Tasunk had her help with more complex tasks, like tracking animals in the forest, preparing meals for the elders, and even learning the stories of the stars. Each task challenged her in new ways. She learned patience as she waited for the slightest movement in the leaves, alert for signs of animals. She learned observation, noticing patterns in the clouds, the wind, and the songs of birds. She learned responsibility, realizing that every action, no matter how small, affected not only herself but everyone around her. Sometimes Maya faltered. She tripped over a root, spilled water, or misread a sign in the forest. Each mistake brought a flash of old shame, but Tasunk never scolded her. Instead, he guided her quietly. "See what happened," he would ask. "Learn from it, understand it, then move forward." At first, Maya felt frustrated. She wanted clear rules, immediate results, and praise when she did well. But gradually, she understood that the real lesson was in the process, the patience, the reflection, and the care. One day, while practicing tracking, Maya lost her way. The forest seemed endless, and fear gripped her chest. She remembered all the times she had wished she could disappear when she felt shame, all the moments she had blamed herself for accidents or failures. But then she heard Tasunk's voice in her memory. "Obstacles are not walls, they are lessons." She took a deep breath, slowed her steps, and focused on the signs he had taught her, the broken twigs, the footprints in the soil, the subtle sounds of the forest. Slowly, she found her way back to the camp. The sense of triumph she felt was deeper than any praise she could have received. She had faced fear, and she had found her own way. As weeks turned into months, Maya began to notice changes within herself. Her hands were steadier, her movements more confident, her mind calmer. But the most significant change was inside her heart. She began to feel pride, not the pride of showing off or seeking approval, but the quiet pride of knowing she was learning, growing, and becoming stronger. She began to care less about what others thought of her and more about what she thought of herself. Tasunk noticed the change too. He began to involve her in more meaningful ways in the camp. She helped teach younger children how to care for animals and tend the fire. She told stories she had learned from her village and added her own experiences. The other people in the camp began to see her not as the girl who had been handed over in shame, but as someone capable, thoughtful, and strong. Each small act of acceptance from the community strengthened the new sense of self growing inside Maya. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Tasunk sat with Maya by the river. He handed her a small, smooth stone. "This stone has been in the river for many years," he said. "It has been shaped by the water, the wind, and the earth. It has not resisted change. It has learned from it. You must do the same." Maya turned the stone over in her hands, feeling its smooth surface. She thought of the mistakes she had made, the shame she had carried, the fear that had gripped her heart. She realized that, like the stone, she had been shaped by the flow of life. Each challenge, each moment of embarrassment, each lesson she had learned had shaped her into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone capable of facing the world with courage. Tasunk smiled, seeing her understanding. "Growth is not easy," he said. "It is quiet, patient, and often unnoticed, but it is real, and it is yours." Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief and understanding. She had spent so long carrying shame that she had forgotten how it felt to be seen for who she truly was. And now here in this quiet camp, with a warrior who guided her without judgment and a community that accepted her efforts, she finally began to feel a sense of belonging. The lessons continued. She learned how to craft simple tools, how to read the signs of the weather, and how to move quietly through the forest. She learned patience as she waited for animals to appear in traps and as she tended the fields with careful attention. She learned compassion as she helped care for injured animals and comforted children when they were afraid. Each skill taught her more than just practical knowledge. It taught her about life, about responsibility, and about herself. There were moments of doubt, of course. Nights when she felt the old shame creep back, whispering that she did not belong, that she had no right to be here. But each time she remembered Tasunk's lessons. The roots that bend, the stones shaped by the river, the lessons hidden in obstacles. Slowly she learned to speak to that voice, to acknowledge it without letting it control her. She began to forgive herself, to understand that mistakes were part of growth, not proof of failure. One afternoon, while helping prepare a meal for the elders, Maya realized just how far she had come. She moved with confidence, her hands steady, her mind attentive. The elders nodded at her approval, and she felt a quiet pride in her chest. Not the pride of seeking praise, but the pride of knowing she had learned, she had tried, and she had grown. Tasunk stood nearby, watching her with calm eyes, and she realized that she no longer felt fear when she met his gaze. She felt respect, gratitude, and a sense of connection. Maya's transformation was not just in her abilities, but in her heart. She no longer saw herself as the girl handed over in shame, but as someone capable of learning, growing, and contributing. She began to smile more easily, laugh without hesitation, and take joy in small moments. The camp had become a place of learning, healing, and belonging. As night fell over the camp, Maya sat by the fire, reflecting on her journey. The stars shone above, countless points of light in the vast sky. She thought of her village, of the fear and shame that had brought her here, and of the lessons she had learned since arriving. She realized that belonging was not about perfection or approval, but about connection, understanding, and the courage to grow. Tasunk sat beside her, silent but present, his calm strength a reminder of everything she had learned. She knew that the journey was far from over, that there would be more challenges, more lessons, and moments of doubt. But she also knew that she was no longer alone, that she had the guidance, the knowledge, and the inner strength to face whatever came next. And in that quiet moment by the fire, Maya understood something profound. Growth was not about erasing mistakes, but about learning from them. It was not about escaping shame, but about transforming it into understanding. And it was not about seeking approval, but about discovering the quiet power within herself. For the first time in a long time, she felt whole. She felt strong. She felt ready. And she felt that the journey ahead, though uncertain, was hers to embrace. Maya had been in the camp for many months now, and the shy, fearful girl who had arrived weighed down by shame was slowly becoming someone entirely different. Each day had taught her patience, observation, and responsibility, but it was during these months that the true transformation began, not just in her skills, but in the very way she saw herself. She no longer felt like an outsider peering into a world she could never belong to. She was becoming part of it, part of the rhythm, the people, and even the land itself. One bright morning, Maya woke early, as was now her habit, and noticed the sunlight spilling through the tall grasses. The birds called to each other, and the air was filled with the smell of dew and earth. It was beautiful, and she paused for a moment, feeling a calm that had been foreign to her before. Today felt different. She was no longer just following instructions or learning lessons. She felt ready to take initiative, to contribute in ways that mattered. Tasunk called her to help with the preparations for a small community gathering. The elders had decided to celebrate the changing season, a tradition that involved stories, food, and music. Maya's heart fluttered at the thought. She wanted to do well, not for approval, but because she now felt responsible, a part of this world in a way she had never imagined. She moved with a new confidence, gathering supplies, preparing food, and helping organize the space for the event. Every gesture she made was thoughtful, careful, and full of intention. As she worked, Maya noticed that the other members of the camp were watching her differently. Children looked to her for guidance, mimicking the careful way she tended the fire or arranged the food. Adults nodded at her efforts, sometimes offering small words of praise, other times simply acknowledging her presence with a respectful smile. It was not the praise of someone seeking validation. It was the acknowledgement that she had grown, that she had become capable, and that she belonged. During the gathering, Maya found herself telling a story to a small group of children. She had been nervous at first, unsure of her voice or her ability to captivate them. But as she spoke, she realized that she had something to share, her experiences, her observations, and even her mistakes. The children listened intently, eyes wide, leaning closer to hear every word. Their curiosity and trust filled her with a sense of purpose she had never known. In that moment, she understood that belonging was not just about being accepted, but about contributing, about sharing herself with others. After the storytelling, Maya helped serve the food, moving among the people with ease. She saw laughter, conversation, and joy all around her, and for the first time she felt like she was not separate from it, but part of it. The fear and shame that had once weighed so heavily on her chest were now replaced by a quiet confidence, a sense of responsibility, and the knowledge that she was valued not for perfection, but for her effort, her care, and her presence. Tasunk observed from a short distance, his calm eyes watching her with pride. He did not intervene or guide her in the moment, because she had already internalized the lessons he had been teaching. Maya had learned to trust herself, to act with intention, and to find her own strength. Seeing her in this moment, he knew that she had truly begun to transform. She had moved beyond shame, beyond fear, and was now embracing her own abilities and place in the world. Later, as the sun dipped low in the sky and painted the landscape with warm golden light, Tasunk approached Maya. "You have grown much," he said quietly. "But growth is not just about skill. It is about understanding who you are and how you fit into the world. Today, I saw that in you. Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that she had not only learned how to live in this camp, but she had begun to understand herself, her strengths, her compassion, and her courage. The transformation was also evident in the way Maya interacted with others. She helped a young boy who was afraid of climbing a small hill, patiently guiding him and offering encouragement. She tended to an injured animal with gentle hands, showing care and respect for life. She even comforted another young woman who was struggling with a task, sharing her own experiences and lessons with empathy and patience. Each act, no matter how small, reflected the growth within her. She was no longer defined by her past mistakes, but by the choices she made each day to act with courage, compassion, and understanding. One evening, as the camp settled for the night, Maya sat by the fire reflecting on her journey. The sky above was filled with stars, their light stretching across the vast expanse like a tapestry of hope. She thought of the girl who had arrived months ago, trembling with fear and shame, and marveled at the journey she had taken. The lessons, the challenges, and the guidance of Tasunk had shaped her, but the change had also come from within her own heart. She had found strength she did not know she had, courage to face her fears, and the ability to connect with others in a meaningful way. Tasunk joined her by the fire and they sat in silence for a long moment, watching the flames dance. "You belong here," he said finally, his voice soft but firm. Maya felt a rush of emotion, relief, joy, and a deep sense of acceptance. She realized that belonging was not about proving herself or earning approval. It was about understanding who she was and allowing others to see her for who she truly was. In that quiet moment, she understood that she had found her place. The next days were filled with continued growth and connection. Maya helped organize activities, shared her knowledge, and even began teaching others some of the skills she had mastered. The children looked up to her with trust, the adults treated her with respect, and she felt a deep sense of responsibility to the community that had welcomed her. She had moved beyond fear and shame, embracing her role as a valued member of the camp. Maya's transformation was not sudden, but gradual, a series of small steps that accumulated into something profound. Each task she performed, each interaction she had, and each moment of reflection contributed to the person she was becoming. She had learned that true strength was not about avoiding mistakes, but about learning from them. She had discovered that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. And she had realized that belonging was not about fitting into someone else's idea of perfection, but about being seen and accepted for who she truly was. One day, while walking along the river with Tasunk, Maya paused to watch the water flow over the rocks, carrying small branches and leaves along its path. "The river moves forward, no matter what obstacles it encounters," Tasunk said. "It does not resist, it adapts. That is how you must live your life. Face challenges, learn from them, and move forward." Maya nodded, feeling the truth of his words resonate deep within her. She had been like the river, shaped by her past experiences, but not defined by them. She had learned to flow, to adapt, and to grow. As the months continued, Maya's sense of belonging deepened. She felt connected to the people around her, the land that sustained them, and the traditions that guided their lives. She had found a rhythm, a balance, and a sense of purpose. The fear and shame that had once controlled her were now distant memories, replaced by confidence, understanding, and a quiet joy in living. At night, she often reflected on her journey, thinking of the lessons Tasunk had taught her and the growth she had achieved. She realized that she had not only learned practical skills, but also the deeper lessons of life: patience, compassion, courage, and self-respect. She had discovered that belonging was not something given or earned by others, but something cultivated within herself. Maya's transformation was now evident to everyone. The children followed her example. The adults treated her with trust and respect, and even Tasunk's quiet pride was clear in his calm gaze. She had moved from a place of shame to a place of belonging, not because she had proven herself perfect, but because she had embraced her own growth and allowed herself to be part of something larger than herself. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and gold, Maya stood at the edge of the camp and looked out over the land. She felt a deep sense of peace and gratitude. She had arrived here in shame, uncertain of her worth and her place in the world. Now she understood that she belonged, not because of what she had done, but because of who she had become. The journey had not been easy, but it had been hers, and it had brought her to a place of acceptance, connection, and inner strength. In that moment, Maya realized that she had truly transformed. She was no longer defined by her past mistakes or her fears. She had grown into someone capable, compassionate, and strong. She had learned to trust herself, to act with intention, and to connect with others in meaningful ways. And most importantly, she had discovered that belonging was not something to be earned or proved. It was something to be felt, nurtured, and embraced from within. Maya had spent many months in the camp now, and the shy, fearful girl who had arrived carrying shame was no longer the same person. Each day had shaped her, each lesson had guided her, and each small success had built her confidence. She had learned not just practical skills, how to tend fires, care for animals, or track in the forest, but also deeper lessons about patience, compassion, courage, and self-respect. Slowly, quietly, she had grown into someone capable of embracing life and finding her place in the world. The morning began like any other, with the soft light of dawn spilling over the hills and dew glistening on the grass. Maya woke early, as she had for months, but this day felt different. She rose from her mat with a sense of anticipation, a quiet excitement that she could not explain. Something was shifting inside her, something deeper than the skills she had learned or the routines she had mastered. She felt ready for the next step of her journey. Tasunk approached her as she prepared water for the morning meal. His presence was calm and steady as it always had been, but today there was something in his eyes, a hint of pride, a gentle acknowledgement that Maya had truly grown. "Today you will do more than help," he said softly. "Today you will lead." Maya's heart skipped a beat. Leading was something she had never imagined for herself. For so long, she had felt unworthy, incapable, and unsure. But now, standing beside the man who had guided her patiently through every lesson, she realized that she had learned enough, grown enough, and trusted herself enough to take this step. She nodded, a mixture of excitement and nervousness stirring within her. Her first task was to help organize the community's morning routines. She moved among the members of the camp, guiding them gently, ensuring that each task was done carefully and thoughtfully. She instructed the children on how to gather water safely, showed the adults where to place firewood for easy access, and assisted elders with preparations for the day's meals. At every turn, she acted with confidence and care, her voice calm but firm, her gestures deliberate. For the first time, Maya realized what leadership truly meant. It was not about control or authority. It was about guiding others with respect, patience, and understanding. It was about being attentive to the needs of everyone around her, while also staying grounded in her own strength. Each time someone followed her instructions or responded to her guidance, Maya felt a quiet satisfaction, not pride in herself alone, but joy in the harmony she was helping to create. After the morning routines, Tasunk led her to the edge of the forest. "You have learned much," he said, "but there is one final lesson, one that you must understand fully to embrace your place here." Maya followed silently, curiosity and anticipation mingling within her. The forest was alive with the sounds of birds, wind, and rustling leaves, and she felt a sense of peace wash over her as she walked. They reached a small clearing, where the river curved gently and the sunlight danced on the water's surface. Tasunk gestured for her to sit, and she obeyed. He knelt across from her, eyes steady and calm. "Maya," he said, You have faced your fears, learned your lessons, and grown stronger than you knew possible. But belonging is more than learning, it is acceptance. Acceptance of yourself, your past, and the place you hold in the world. Do you understand what that means? Maya took a deep breath, thinking of the months she had spent in this camp, of the mistakes that had led her here, and of the quiet strength she had discovered within herself. She realized that she had already begun to understand. She had accepted her flaws, learned from them, and transformed them into wisdom and care. She had embraced the community, contributed to it, and found connection. Slowly, she nodded. "I think I understand," she said softly. Tasunk smiled, a rare and gentle expression that made Maya's heart lift. Belonging is not about perfection, Maya. It is not about never failing or never feeling fear. It is about showing up, learning, growing, and being seen for who you truly are. You belong not because of what you have done, but because of who you are. Maya felt a surge of emotion. The weight of all her past mistakes, all the shame she had carried, seemed to dissolve in that moment. She realized that she had spent so long believing she was unworthy, that she had never imagined someone could see her as enough just as she was. And now, in the quiet presence of Tasunk and the serene beauty of the forest, she finally understood. She was enough. She belonged. Over the next hours, Maya put this understanding into action. She helped guide others through tasks, shared her experiences and knowledge, and offered encouragement where it was needed. Each interaction was filled with a sense of confidence and care that had not been there before. She no longer hesitated or doubted herself. She spoke and acted with the awareness that she was part of something larger than herself, part of a community that valued her for exactly who she was. That evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky and painted the world in shades of gold and crimson, the camp gathered for a quiet celebration of the season's changes. Maya moved among the people, helping with preparations, tending fires, and arranging the space with care. Children ran to her, seeking guidance and comfort. Adults acknowledged her presence with respect and gratitude. The elders smiled knowingly, recognizing the transformation that had taken place. As the gathering began, Maya found herself sitting beside Tasunk. She looked around at the camp, the laughter, the stories, the music, and the warmth of the fire, and felt a profound sense of belonging wash over her. She realized that she had come to this place carrying fear and shame, and now she was embraced by understanding, acceptance, and connection. She had found her place. Tasunk leaned slightly toward her, his eyes calm and steady. "Maya," he said, "you have grown beyond what I could have imagined. You have learned the lessons of life, of patience, of courage, and of care. But most importantly, you have learned to accept yourself, and now you belong here." The words sank deep into her heart. "I belong," she whispered, barely daring to believe them. "You belong," Tasunk repeated, a gentle but firm certainty in his voice. "Not because of what you have done, but because of who you are. You have faced your fears, learned your lessons, and shown your strength. You have given yourself to this community, and in doing so you have found your place. You belong right here." Maya felt tears well up in her eyes. She thought of the girl who had arrived in the camp, trembling and ashamed, who had feared judgment and rejection. She thought of the journey she had taken, the mistakes, the lessons, the patience, and the growth. And now she felt a sense of peace she had never known. She had been handed to this place in shame, but she had discovered acceptance, strength, and belonging. In the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the warmth of the camp, Maya understood that her journey was both an ending and a beginning. She had arrived carrying fear and shame, and she was leaving that fear behind. She had learned to trust herself, to act with care, and to connect with others in meaningful ways. And most importantly, she had discovered that belonging was not something to be earned or proven. It was something to be felt, nurtured, and embraced from within. The celebration continued into the night, filled with music, stories, and laughter. Maya moved among the people, sharing smiles and words of encouragement. She danced with the children, helped the elders with small tasks, and shared stories of her experiences. Each moment was a reflection of her transformation, a living proof that she had grown into someone capable of love, care, and connection. When the fire burned low and the camp settled for the night, Maya sat beside Tasunk once more. The stars above were bright and clear, each one a small reminder of the vastness and beauty of the world. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice full of emotion, "for everything, for teaching me, guiding me, and showing me that I belong." Tasunk nodded, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "You found it within yourself, Maya. I only helped you see it. You have grown strong, compassionate, and wise, and now you are home, not just here in this camp, but in yourself." Maya smiled, a quiet, full smile that came from deep within her heart. She felt the peace of knowing she had arrived at the place she had always been searching for, a place of acceptance, connection, and belonging. She understood that her journey had not been easy, but it had been necessary. Every mistake, every lesson, every moment of fear had led her to this point. And now, finally, she was whole. As she lay down that night, listening to the gentle sounds of the camp and the forest around her, Maya felt a deep sense of gratitude and contentment. She had been handed to a Lakota warrior in shame, uncertain and afraid. But through patience, guidance, and her own courage, she had discovered her strength, her purpose, and her place in the world. And when Tasunk's words echoed in her mind, "You belong right here," she knew, without a doubt, that they were true. Maya had arrived in the camp as a girl weighed down by fear and shame. She had grown into a young woman of confidence, compassion, and strength. She had learned that true belonging is not about perfection, but about acceptance. It is not about escaping mistakes, but about embracing them as part of the journey. And in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of the camp, the guidance of Tasunk, and the quiet beauty of the world around her, Maya finally understood that she was home.